Hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com, where music comes to life. And for a long time, hard rock bands were mainly either from the USA or England. But over the past few decades, that's begun to change, and Sweden has become the epicenter for a thriving melodic rock scene. In my opinion, the band that leads that scene and one of the best rock bands in the world today is Eclipse. They recently released their first ever live record, Viva La VicTOURia, and I have singer and guitarist Erik Martensson here with me to talk about it. Welcome, Erik.
Thank you so much. Well, that's some very kind words from you. Thank you so much.
Well, and let's start with this record. You guys have always been known as an explosive live band. Why haven't you released a full live show before, and why is now the right time to do it?
Well, I know fans has been asking for it, and we said that we should do one of those, and it has never happened. And because it's when you play live, there's so many, especially festivals and stuff. It's just you have so little time to prepare, and you want to have your own gear, and you want to have a proper concert where everything is the optimal chances to perform good, and it just never happened. But this video was filmed during one of the gigs we did in Sweden on just over the tour. We were supposed to be touring for 2020. So, but Victor, our bass player, he works with video, and he asked some friends, because it was his hometown. So he asked some friends, "Can you just come over and film? Grab some beers and just bring your cameras and film the gig." And we maybe we could use something for social media, because we didn't think so much serious about it. And so we recorded also the multi-track from from the console. After the gig, it was a great gig, great crowd. It was on the 21st of December, just before Christmas. And after Christmas, we just started looking at some pictures from it. It's like, this looks really good. I brought up the multi-track and listened to it. It sounds really good as well. So and then a couple of months went by, and the whole pandemic started to becoming really serious, and everything was shut down. And then we just had the time to let's have a look and have a proper listen to what we recorded. And so it was kind of art by accident. It wasn't supposed to be a live album. But when we started working on it, it was like, this is material for a proper release.
And you've been sort of the heart and soul of the band, you and Magnus Henriksson, since the beginning. How did Eclipse come together? How did you guys start the band initially?
They say we've been around for 20 years. Well, it's kind of true and not true. Henriksson and myself, we met 20 years ago, and it was a music school in Stockholm. I was from the countryside, and I didn't know anyone. I just come to one of those fancy music schools where everyone played jazz and and fusion rock, and I was coming. I came from being just playing. I played hard rock on the guitar. I went there as a musician, and I went up to one of those where people have it's one of the rooms, and by the stereo there was this guy, long-haired guy, sitting and listening to Deep Purple. And I was like, "Hello, my name is Erik. Oh, you like Deep Purple?" And we started chatting, and you're like, "You like Yngwie Malmsteen as well?" "Yeah, I do." And I was like, I couldn't believe it that there was someone like me there. And we immediately started, then we started playing guitar together. It was like, this guy, he loves AC/DC. He loves old 60s music. Every box was checked. We had the same kind of musical preferences, and that's how we hooked up together and started making music.
And I mentioned earlier that all of a sudden, over the last couple of decades, Sweden has really put out some great melodic rock bands. What is it about the music scene in Sweden, or the fans, that allows for it? Because I mean, at this point, kind of reminds me sort of like New York was in the 70s, or like LA was in the 80s. There's a lot of bands, a lot of good bands coming out of Sweden now. What's going on there that's kind of letting that happen?
I think it's the same thing. You know, maybe it's not as big, but you know, there's some really big, at least pop artists that's come from Sweden. But there's a lot of great rock bands from Sweden. I think it's the same thing that with, you know, the whole Sunset Strip phenomena, or you know, you said New York and the whole punk era. Everything is like bands inspire other bands. Because if I buy a record from a band from America, from LA, it's so far away. It could be, you know, they could be from Mars, you know, as far as I'm concerned. But if you see a band in your hometown doing it, and they're releasing records, they're really good, and people like it, and people buy the records, and they go on tour. You can actually, they are real, and you can see that if these guys can do it, we can do it. I think that's as simple as that.
And with the band, you guys are always on the road, and a lot of your touring is throughout Europe. So a live record like this is really the only time that US audiences get to experience you live. And nobody's touring now, and doesn't look like it's going to happen in the near future. But has there ever been any talk about you guys sort of joining up with a bigger US band, maybe do an opening slot so that you can get out there and tour the US a bit?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we've been discussing it. Just as we discussed doing a live video, we have been talking about, yeah, we should do that, and it's just never happening. But eventually, we did a live album, and let's hope that eventually we will do that as well. Because, you know, touring America is not as simple. It's not so simple because, you know, when you're not a famous band, you play in the worst places ever. And if you're gonna make a proper tour throughout America, I think there's gonna be some pretty bad places we're gonna end up playing in, because no one, you know, we can't get paid because no one knows the band.
Right.
So yeah, so I think that's the only way of doing it, is like being an opening act band and start from the, you know, from scratch. We've been, you know, we started touring in Europe. We started at the worst places, the smallest places. We play in front of 5 people in some places, and you know, next time we came, there were 55 people, and next time there were 150 people, and you know, it's just, that's how we've been building this band, from just going in a, you know, in a shitty car to, you know, expanding to nightliners, to crew, to you know, bigger venues. That's, I think it's, and I like it. That's how it should be done. It's the proper way of building a band, because when you do it like that, you build your fan base for real fans. But when you do a buy-on and you're opening act, of course, it's a lot of people at the concerts, and a lot of people, you can put out fancy pictures from stage, but a lot of people, but they're not there to see you. So, well, I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, definitely.
Hopefully we'll go to America and do a proper tour someday.
And you know, again, we're kind of in this new world now where bands like yourself can't get out there and play, so the internet's a huge deal. And you guys did a quarantine set a little earlier this year that's actually on the live record. Have you any thoughts about doing, you know, more things like that to try to, you know, get the band out worldwide a little more?
I don't know. We talked about it. It was fun to do this. The whole thing started with that. In the start of the whole quarantine thing, when the lockdown started, it seemed like every person with an acoustic guitar were, you know, hooking up their phone and started to sing on Facebook or Instagram. It was just, you know, it became pretty annoying, to be honest. You know, it didn't matter. It didn't matter if it was your biggest star doing it, because you've seen it so much that you just couldn't stand it anymore. So we said, if we're gonna do something, we gotta do it, you know, make it look good, and you know, proper rock band thing. And so that's why we had this pay-per-view thing, to, you know, so we could be able to pay the studio, the camera crew and stuff. But now we've done that, and it's like, it was fun. Sure, it was fun, but it's also a lot of work, and it's not that much fun. I would rather wait and do proper gigs, because that's what it's all about. It's, you know, it's being on the stage, or, you know, for the crowd as well. The crowd should be standing close together and get annoyed at each other with a beer, a warm beer in your hand. And that's what it's all about.
There's nothing better.
There's nothing better. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah. And looking back on the career of the band a bit, even though it was your fourth record, Bleed and Scream really felt like the turning point of the band. And you've really taken off since then and been on that steady cycle of recording and touring. Did you feel as though the band kind of turned a corner with that record? Or, is it something where looking back, you're like, yeah, that's the one that really allowed us to keep going forward?
You're absolutely right. And it's the answer is I don't know. During in the early 2000s, this kind of music, the melodic hard rock, was so out of fashion. People were actually for real laughing at us because we played this stupid music, because it was so out of fashion. And it was really hard to you couldn't get gigs at all. You couldn't even play at the local pub because no one wanted this music. It was just impossible everywhere. And so we tried the first two albums, which are more like, it was more released demos. We didn't know what to do because we wanted to do melodic rock, but we also tried to be kind of modern, but we failed because we didn't do what we wanted. We didn't follow, we didn't, follow the music that we wanted to do. And then in 2008, we did one record. We just like, screw it, let's do a record that's so out of fashion. Just do music that we love. We just do it for fun. That's how an album called Are You Ready to Rock? That's the whole title as well. It's just a stupid title. Everything is like, let's do something that everyone will hate. And the funny thing is that's the first record that people like, wow, this is really good. We're like, are you kidding me? Do you like this? We didn't think people would like it at all. But on that record, we tried to do something. We always, every song you listen to on that record, you can hear that it sounds like something else. It sounds like a Rainbow song or a Whitesnake song or whatever. You can really hear the influences. But when we did Bleed and Scream, we tried to okay, let's skip the influence to try to find what Eclipse sounds like. And that's the first time we let's do something on our own and stand on our own feet. And that really paid off. And that's when we took off as a band.
And are you always writing, for instance, are you already writing for the next one, or are you the type that waits and sort of writes specifically for a project?
I write specifically for a project almost every time, but sometimes I just sit down and write songs to see what happens. But we are already starting working on new Eclipse material. I think we already got 10, 11 songs.
Oh, wow.
We've never had so much time because we were supposed to, the plan was to release an album quite early, very tightly after the previous one. We wanted to release it already this spring, but because of the pandemic, there's no chance of touring. So we postponed it to after the summer. So in the fall of 21. Which like a year from now. It's a super long time and it's really boring, but it also gave us 6 months extra to do the record, which we never had before. It's always been always panic. So this time let's see what happens. Maybe it's I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. let's see what happens. Hopefully better.
And Eclipse isn't the only project you're working on. On the day we're filming this interview, literally right before we got on, the new Wet single came out, which is your project with the amazing Jeff Gaudiosi, who's been on this site many times over the years, and Robert Saul from Work of Art. Anything you could tell us about the upcoming Wet record?
Well, it's easy to say that your latest record is your favorite, but I think this might be my favorite Wet record. It's more up tempo. It's more fun. I don't know. I really like it. I think it's and I think Jeff is singing better than ever on this one because usually he's touring every day of the year almost, always on tour, and your voice gets really tired when you tour a lot. I couldn't sing an album after a tour. I would probably have to have a couple of months relaxing if I want to do my, my best
Yeah.
vocal performance. But so Jeff, all of a sudden there was no touring for him anymore. So I think he sings better than ever. I think it's never been singing so good on a wet record before.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah.
We've been spending some time here with Erik Martensson of the band Eclipse. Again, the new record, a live record, is out called Viva La VicTOURia. It's available everywhere. You can stream it. I know you guys have some physical copies. You have some cool colored vinyl with red, white, and blue LPs for the 3 LP set. And Erik, it's been a pleasure getting to talk with you, and I hope we get to do it again soon. Best of luck with
Absolutely.
Eclipse. Best of
Thank you
luck
so
with
much.
Wet. Looking forward to it. And thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.